Hello, fellow UBI enthusiasts and people who want to see a fairer place in the world. Today we have Marcel,
Hello.
and my name is Daniela. Hello. So, as always, on our little universal basic income chat that happens every first Tuesday of the month, we have an exciting topic for today. And the topic that I was proposing last time was the how we're going to pay for it. Because money matters. Money matters a lot. Money matters a lot to everyone, irrespective of whether you have money, whether you want money, or whether you're lacking in money. Money simply is important. And in my opinion, one of the reasons why UBI is not yet implemented is that people perceive a scarcity of money. And then the argument goes, well, the government doesn't have that much money, and I don't want the the drug addict down the road to get any money, but that means I don't get it either, but it's okay because I don't want other people to have it. Another line of thought I've come across a lot is, well, as long as it's distributed in a fair way. And I'm thinking, well, what is a fair way? Who am I to say what is fair and what is not fair? And I think I can't because I don't want to take decisions over people's lives. So, more specifically, I don't want to take a decision that takes money away from people and makes it harder for people to have a good life. That is not me. If anything, I would like to give people money, free money, give them every month, hand it out to them so that they can have a decent, dignified life. Because just imagine what could be the possibilities if everyone has a decent and dignified life and they can do whatever they please and they can make the world better in whatever way they want. And I've mentioned over the months and years a few niche examples that I've come across myself, but I've never met a single person who said they're going to sit in front of the TV and just watch TV all day. Not a single time. Most of the time, I do meet people who say, well, my current job is a bit shit and I need a break. I just need a holiday, say a few weeks, a month maybe. And let it be a year if you like. But every single person who I've met, and especially those that had the good luck to be able to take that time off, all of those have gone to a job, and I'm taking job loosely here, but they've gone to do something that is really important in the world. Some of them, one of them I'm thinking of right now, is a geologist by training and is working in a weather station. That's important. You think, oh, looking at the weather, you just stick your head out. But if you're a farmer, you would really want to know the forecast for how's the weather going to be in a month's time and in 6 months' time, for example, so you know when to harvest, when to sow, and how to feed other people. So it's really important work. Another person who I've come across, she managed to be, or she ended up being able to stay at home with her disabled child. I think that's a good thing. Her life's better for it, her child's life is better for it, and so everyone benefits. There's so many different ways of how a universal basic income can make the world a better place that all of those arguments that I'm hearing around the money and where it comes from, or how to distribute it, all of them could be resolved if and when, because I do think it will happen, but when we find out how to fund it. And here, before I'm going over to my master plan, I'm going to let Marcel have a few words and get in there.
Um, I think you've brought up two interesting points. One is whether or not yeah we should be giving a UBI, and that's a big part of what we're trying to overcome as people arguing why people shouldn't get a UBI, especially when everyone thinks that they could do with an extra bit of cash and all the positive things they would do with it. And we talked about as well about the winning the lottery. How many people first thing they didn't do is quit their job, and then the next thing they do is they go back to their job because they're bored. People want to contribute to society. But I think the affordability one is the one that catches politicians out. So when a politician does say, "Oh, I'm thinking about a UBI," the question that catches them out is, how is it going to be paid for? How are we going to afford it? And it is a question that needs to be addressed properly. And I know there have been studies about how UBI can, basically pay for itself because of, it would reduce this and reduce that. But at the end of the day, the starting point, we still need to find the money to pay for it initially before all those benefits, the longer term benefits, can start coming back to it. So I think if we just start looking at some basic core numbers, we would have a better understanding of what the challenge is, just so that we know where we're coming from. And for that, we need to have a starting point as well. Now, I'm going to use UK numbers because there's a lot of published information about the budget, the UK budget, and how much money gets spent at the moment on various social services and things like that, as well as how much is collected from taxation and things. So the UK budget is a very good one that anybody can go and download from the internet and have a look at and see how the UK budget is created. And obviously it changes from government to government, but as a whole, a lot of the big expenditure items don't change a lot, especially because that affects a larger part of the population. So I think the first thing that's worth pointing out is that there are some social services that we already provide. So pensions is a big one, and unemployment is the second one. So how much do we actually spend on unemployment at the moment? If I just refer to my figures quickly, within the UK, unemployment costs about £60 billion a year. Pensions cost about £135 billion a year, right? So those two combined are going to give you about £185 billion per year. Now, those are the two big social costs at the moment that we're currently spending. Now, if we were trying to give everyone £1 million a month, or £1 million, that would be a good story. £1,000 a month, which a lot of people said is, would be a basic income, would be able to cover your rent and your food and things like that. It would be a decent point. That's also what David Yang talked about when he was talking about the US and UBI in the US is $1,000 a month. That would be £12,000 a year. Now, for every living resident in the UK of, I think what the population is at the moment is about 65 million. That works out to about £780 billion a year for a UBI. So we're comparing 180 billion of what we're currently spending just on pensions and unemployment benefits, and comparing that with roughly 800 billion a year for a UBI. So we're talking about 4 times as much as what is currently spent at the moment.
Can I just ask a question quickly?
Yes, of
Because
course.
the 65 million, does that include children?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the population of the UK. It doesn't matter whether you're young or old. It's how many people. It's roughly about 65 million. That's a good number to work with when you're doing these calculations. So, giving each of them 12,000, it works out to about 780 billion, which is about 4 times what is currently spent on unemployment and pensions at the moment. Now, bear in mind, of course, that unemployment and pensions would be the two numbers that would be removed from the current expenditure, right, to because they wouldn't be needed anymore. You have the UBI covering unemployment and pensions. You get a UBI, then also get a pension and also get unemployment benefits. You're just getting a UBI. So it's basically 3 times what we're currently spending on pensions, unemployment, right, that we need to find. And that's the number, and it's thinking about it from those perspectives, as to how much, do we actually need to get. So the next thing we can look at is, how much do we spend on taxation, for example? How much does the UK gather in taxes at the moment? And if I just have a quick look again, the UK, typical, can't find that page now. Sorry.
While still looking, the reason why I was asking around children or not, whether they're included, is because there is child support as well and things like those. So there's
Yes.
child support by the partner who may have walked out or not or whatever happened. And then there's child support by the government that I'm not sure you have included in the 180 billion,
No, no,
for
no, exactly,
example.
and that's the point. There are other social expenditures that could also be removed because they're not they would be covered by the UBI. Sorry, so the taxes that are currently collected by the UK government is around the 850 billion pounds a year. So we're talking about the same amount of tax that is currently collected being required, to fund UBI, less of course what we're spending at the moment on it. So and it's that question that stumps politicians because effectively to afford a UBI, you're going to have to, the first starting point, it looks like you're going to have to double tax revenue to be able to cover the costs that a UBI would have. Now that is the challenge going forward is how do we double taxation, right, to cover the UBI. About when they're thinking, is a UBI affordable or not? The answer is yes, a UBI is affordable. Tax rates, as we know, are some of the lowest in history. They've been a lot higher. In fact, they have been double, right, just 50 years ago. Yeah, and we can go back to that relatively easily. It's been done before. It doesn't, crush economies. It is what we worked out before. The other thing that's worth bearing in mind is that a UBI, yes, as a starting point, would be around the 800 billion mark for the UK. But if we increase income taxes for those people that are earning above, half the median, right, so that they don't are a net winner of the situation, we immediately look at only half the people, because by definition, the median, anyone who's over the median, shouldn't be getting a net benefit, is half the people, then we already immediately cut the UBI benefits in half, right, down to 400 million, assuming that half people are working. And that's where the numbers start becoming a bit more interesting because we've not got all 65 million people working. We only got about half the people actually working. So if we were looking at a UBI of getting people, who funded are the people who are actually doing working, and income tax has been the main source of taxation at the moment, then those people are going to complain, right? Because they're not going to be just paying for half of it; they're going to be paying, for all of it. So we have that issue as well, and I think looking at it from a taxation point of view is an interesting one because currently we're expecting every individual to pay their income taxes because that is where we're getting the source of income from for the taxation. And the problem that especially European places face at the moment with an aging population is we're having fewer and fewer people working and therefore fewer and fewer people paying income tax. And as we have fewer and fewer people paying income tax, the challenges associated with relying on income tax as the primary source of taxation is where the problem is coming from. And we need to think differently about how we tax and how we collect taxes, right, and not focus on income tax as the main source of taxation, especially going forward with, the main reason we've been arguing for UBI is because of automation taking away people's jobs. Especially if going forward that when people have a UBI, they think, okay, well, I no longer need to contribute to society by finding a job that earns an income. I can contribute to society by doing whatever, whether it actually earns an income or not, because I'll be able to contribute to society. And therefore, that is not going to be where the taxation comes from, because people are, doing more, voluntary work. They're still contributing. The economy is still able to grow and progress, and we're getting a lot of benefits from it. But we're not getting the people paying income tax anymore. So they need to be, we need to get a tax from somewhere else, and it's then puts the burden more on again corporation tax, wealth taxes for people with lots of money so we can reduce that inequality aspect of it ideally. But where are we going to tax? How are we going to tax? Because personal income tax, being the main source of income, taxation income at the moment, is not a long-term solution either.
I completely agree with everything you said. And all of the numbers I've seen show that the number of jobs is going down year on year on year. There's more automation, there is more machinery being used, and people are being phased out left, right, and center. That's just what's happening right now, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm very much in favor to very much in favor of letting machinery take over where humans have limits.
Mm.
Machines just don't get sick. They don't get tired. They need maintenance, yes, but generally they just work full stop and they do the job repeatedly, the same quality every single time. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. That's a really, really good thing. Um, as I mentioned, I don't think people have a problem with not immediately finding a job. It's only a problem if the situation is so dire, if you must have a job to survive, then there's desperation and stress, and people get desperate, literally very, very desperate. And I don't know where that's going to lead to. I don't think somewhere good. Currently, one of the problems in the US is that youngsters aged 20 to 24, the unemployment rate is going up. And that's not just the uneducated youngsters, it's across the board. 20 to 24, you come out of university or after high school, it's hard. It's really tough out there at the moment, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. Now, in the past, how that was solved is a war, and people got drafted. That's not my preference, but that is what happened in the past, and I wonder what's happening now. So, moving to the positive again, having all those changes in our society, I think is an opportunity that we can use. Now, you alluded to corporation tax. Corporation tax is low. In comparison to what people pay, it is super low. I have played with AI and caveats here, heavy, heavy caveats. It was one of the LLMs, or some of the LLMs. I try and compare the output of various different options. There is a bias in the data based on the different jet AI bots that are out there. All of them, though, all of them are got to a point to say, yes, a UBI is possible, even on a global basis, even paying the UBI to children. But all of them would agree that a few things need to happen. First of all, corporations need to pay the same tax as humans. Every legal entity, so a legal entity is either a natural person, like human beings, or it is a corporation or a church or any other organization that is protected under the law. So any legal entity, whether human or corporation, needs to pay the same tax. One of the AIs actually said, "Yep, that's the winner. That's the golden ticket to a UBI." So why don't we? If it is that simple, why don't we? One of the more resistant AIs, I posed the question, what if we force all of the wealthy people to pay the tax they are due, and in addition, we force the judicial system to actually collect the fines, like Trump's 500 million and so on. What if we did that? And the response was, well, they will resist. And I was like, okay, so how come rich people can resist paying taxes, but poor people can't? So my opinion is that unless equality is taken into account and we're moving to a greater level of equality, UBI will not happen. So the trying to get to a UBI and trying to get a fair UBI needs to be done hand in hand with leveling the playing field. And that's why I'm in favor of having the same tax code for every legal entity, meaning human or corporation. They pay the same tax codes, the same progression. For wealthy people, I am in favor of a wealth tax of what some people call mark to market, which means end of the year or a specific date and point every year. Wealthy people tally up what they own and pay tax on that. They don't have to sell their shares, they don't have to sell the properties. It's just if the property is worth 1 million and you have 1 million worth in shares, then you pay tax on the 2 million, whether you sell them or not. How you pay for it, I really couldn't care. Just like rich people don't care where a single mom with 3 kids gets her lunch from, I don't care where rich people get the money from to pay the tax. As simple as that. It needs to be a level playing field. And as soon as we have that, there is no problem in paying for it. It's literally as simple as that. I can back it up with figures, but it'll take until next time round. But it is
Yeah, yeah.
possible.
No,
At,
no.
last point. The reason why I'm a bit hesitant about mentioning AI is because AI lies to you. If you don't believe me, ask a question you know the answer to. If it's not right, challenge them and simply say that is a lie. Most AIs will own up to it. So the data I got back today, I did have a look that the number of corporations, and I was using mostly US data here, to be honest, because that's where they're focused on. But the number of corporations mentioned were correct. The rough numbers on taxation they mentioned, I could find a backup for that as well. So whilst I'm still a bit tongue in cheek about the data, I do think I know that if I go digging and get all of the data confirmed, that will come to the same conclusion.
Exactly. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. If we talk, Elizabeth Warren was always talking about a, 2% wealth tax, 2 cents for every dollar you earn over 50 million. If you just look at the current value of the biggest corporation, only the biggest, not never mind any else, just Nvidia, which is the biggest corporation, at 4 trillion, right? And we look at 2% of 4 trillion, right, as a wealth tax. So everybody who owns Nvidia shares is expected to provide, the 2% wealth tax just on that one. And I understand that it's not just US citizens and things like that. But if we look at it from a global perspective, just looking at the 4 trillion, then we have, what is it,
80
80,
billion.
80 billion, right, for the wealth tax just of shareholders of Nvidia,
Yes.
right?
It is possible. It is 100% possible. All that stands in the way between us right now and the world where UBI is a reality is a change in politics and a change in law. And that is the stumbling block because it's the rich people that don't want to pay tax, and it's the rich people that go and lobby governments. So that's the the stumbling block and the crux of it all, and I don't know how to overcome that just yet.
Yeah, and that's been the big argument always for any social change. You would like, the people in power who have all the benefits and set the rules, right, are expected to change the rules, right, to work against themselves. Yeah, and that's hard.
Mm.
And I think, we've had huge changes over the last few centuries. Just from giving every citizen the vote, right? Giving not just women and non-white people the vote, which have been very newsworthy in the 20th century. But if you go back to the 19th century, not even white men were entitled to vote just for being a white man. If you didn't own land, you weren't entitled to vote either. So there's been a huge change in just getting everyone the ability to vote. And I know there's a huge pressure to try and change that, suppression and things like that. Because again, you don't want people to be able to change the rules for the rich people. They've resisted that and will continue to resist that. But we need to continue to fight for it and speak about it. And if you think UBI is a good thing, vote for the politicians that think UBI is a good thing. And if you don't have a representative that thinks UBI is a good thing, consider standing for yourself in your community, and getting that message out there. Until we have people actually talking about UBI, right, and politicians saying, "Well, my community wants UBI. How are we going to afford this?" They're getting people to actually stop and think, because there is a lot of money out there, right, and getting that money circulating again And I've done a previous article as to why it's so important, that we implement the UBI from a rich person's perspective. Because as we implement more and more automation and more robots, we have fewer and fewer people with jobs, and therefore fewer and fewer people earning money, and therefore fewer and fewer people being able to spend and buy the products and services that these corporations are creating. With by introducing a UBI, you're giving people money that they can then go and spend on the products and services that these corporations are making, and therefore you have the money flowing back into the system and circulating.
Mhm.
And I think when we start looking at it from a how is it going to benefit the rich? How's the UBI going to benefit the rich, right? And then agreeing that actually this is what we need. Let's give these people money, right, so that they can go buy my stuff, right? Let's stop forcing people to do, David Graeber called the bullshit jobs, right? Just so they have some money, right, to go and spend. You know, be as efficient as you want. Get as many robots and automation and AI and everything else into your corporation, right? Stop hiring people that are going to sit around and waste your money, right? And then just give them the money so they can go buy the stuff that you're making, right? And then you get the one who makes the best products, or the products that people actually want are the ones that survive. And that's how the rich people want things. They want their capitalism. They want to be able to show that they're the best, and they've got the best products, or in some cases the cheapest products, because that seems to be a primary driving factor as to what people will buy. But let that system take place. Let that system continue. And if you want the rich people to have their system continue, into the future, they're going to have to provide a UBI. And how that money is going to be provided, the answers will come. We haven't even discussed whether just printing money, right, which is what is done to save the banks in the 2008 financial crisis, for example, is a solution anyway. It seemed to be perfectly fine then, right, as a way of saving the economy. But instead of giving it to the banks, let's give it to people.
Yes,
It's definitely going to be cheaper.
I completely agree.
So, yeah, support the rich. Give everyone a UBI.
Very true. Very true. And as I said, it doesn't really matter what people do throughout the day. Generally, people do things that support the greater good. Some people are
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, other people are stay-home mums. Both of those have value, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I coming from a software background, some of the best software out there, right, is created by people, voluntarily. I mean, yes, some people work for corporations that then contribute, and then a lot of contributions come that way. But that software is being created by people, right? And you got fantastic software being created, but without worrying about how you're going to pay for the people making those contributions. Yeah, if you just, for example, allow somebody to work on these open source software projects whilst paying them, right? The company itself is not directly benefiting, right? They're indirectly, because all those contributions feed back into the software that they're using, right? But you pay the person. The fact that they have to work for another company to get paid, is anything that changes. We're saying, well, pay the people, pay someone a UBI, right? Let's see how much free software gets developed, and all those software engineers that no longer have to work on some piece of software that they don't want to work on, because it's all designed to try and prevent somebody from copying the software. Whereas open source software is all about making it free and easily distributed. How much better is the software going to be? If we stop worrying about creating stuff that is designed to break, designed not to last.
Yes.
Let's create products and services that are designed to last, that are designed to be better than last year's model.
But for that, it needs freedom, freedom to do that, freedom to create that software or that product or that service, and it
Mm-hmm.
needs freedom to and time to be able to go out there and tell people about it, so that
Yeah.
other people get to hear about it, what's out there, and how to use things and why are they better. than others. Or even when I say better, not necessarily better for everyone, but how are they more appropriate for one person over the other?
Yeah.
And again, UBI is one of those things. It's about freedom. So you get money, you can choose. It's not food stamps, it's not charity, but everyone gets money so that everyone can choose what to do, how they contribute, and also what they buy, what they consume.
Yeah.
Because everyone has different needs, different ideas about how to live their lives, and it literally is that. It allows people to choose.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's super important that we get on it, that we get on a case and make it happen.
Yeah.
Now, we know how to make it happen. It's just how do we get there? How do we get enough people to either vote for the politicians that make it happen or that stand as politicians themselves? Because the alternative is going back the French Revolution way, and I'm not sure we want that again.
Yeah.
So think about it. Think about how you believe you yourself can contribute. If you think you can't, do write in as well. Let us know. And let's have a conversation. Why do you think you can't? What is it that stops you, other than oh, I have to hold down three, four jobs already just to make rent payments, because that is a common one as well. And exhaustion does not help the cause. So think about it. Vote for your own interest. Vote for UBI as much as you can. I do understand, and I'm smiling here, that a lot of times it's the Green Party that champions UBI, and the Green Party is great when it comes to cities and public transport. But once you live somewhere further out of the city or in the countryside, public transport thins out. So the mandate of the Green Parties often doesn't reach the whole country. And I see the challenges there, that what the politicians say versus what people want does not marry up. But the alternative is a right wing party that just screws over the little people. So be smart. Even if the party that wants UBI is not ideal, once UBI is in place, you can get a better car. You can afford and make that happen. Maybe you don't even need to work anymore, then you don't may not need your car anymore. And things like that. Think it through. Really, really think it through. How much would a UBI give you from the party that promises it, so that your life would be so much better off that the little inconsistencies you can look over and look beyond, because it will kickstart a change. Sorry.
It's a priority thing.
Mm.
What are your priorities? And unfortunately, too many people think about um, the current job and how much tax they have to pay, and whether or not they can have a car. You know, and that's their focus. That's where they're focusing on. And when people talk about that X, Y, and Z is taking away your job, right? They worry because if they don't have a job, they're not going to be able to pay for it, and they don't stop. There's no UBI is not even an option in there. When they're thinking and voting, it's all about what's most likely. Who's saying that they're going to protect my job, making sure that I hang on to my job so I can feed myself going forward.
Mm.
And the UBI message needs to get out there, because going forward, the only way you're going to be able to feed yourself going forward, right, is via UBI.
Yes, I agree. So write into us or show up at our next get together, first Tuesday of the month, 4 p.m. UTC. That's going to change over from summertime to wintertime soon. So keep an eye out. Make sure you understand time zones. We put a link in there as well to make it easy for everyone. But join us either on the call or write in. Do it anonymously if we don't have a name or we have one of those temporary email addresses. We are collating questions on our website and our Mastodon account, so we can play them back to other people and answer them. Um, Otherwise, do donate to us. We're always looking for sponsors. As you can imagine, it does cost money to put our little system together and take yes, take time away from our money paying pursuits. So please do consider sponsoring us if you think that UBI has any value. Alternatively, join our little group and help us get the word out, because the more people know about it, and the more people help us get the word out, the sooner it will happen. Good. And with that, I say thanks a lot for your attention,
Yeah, thank you.
and I hope you have a great week ahead. Keep up the hope, have a good day, and don't give up any of the hope and optimism for the future. It's a bit of a rough patch right now, but we will get through it and we will have a UBI in our lifetime. Okay, bye bye.